there's no downside to wearing a mask.
White House officials continue to stress the importance of wearing masks and how it can help us turn things around.
There is nothing in the data that would suggest that kids being back in school is dangerous to them.
Plus, the Secretary of Education echoes President Trump saying kids need to return to schools. We'll have the latest on our local school districts' plans for the fall. And Florida sets a new daily record with over 15,000 cases reported yesterday, but that didn't stop Disney World from welcoming their guests in for the first time in months.
Plus, records were broken today, so I hope you stayed cool. Just how close did we get to that all-time record? I'll let you know.
This is NBC Palm Springs.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Olivia Sandusky. Daytona Everett has the night off. Topping our news tonight, we begin with some breaking news. A fire broke out this morning on board a U.S. naval ship docked in San Diego. The Navy says about 160 sailors were on the board of that ship. 17 sailors and 4 civilians were injured, but none of those injuries appear to be serious. NBC's Dan Scheneman has the latest.
An early morning explosion was reported on board the USS Bonhomme Richard. Then crews were called to a 3-alarm fire as smoke filled the sky above Naval Base San Diego. In a tweet, Naval Surface Forces said sailors and civilians were taken to a hospital with minor injuries. The entire crew is off the vessel.
Hope for the best and hope that they're okay. And you never want something to happen to your own brothers. You know, I don't care if you've been out 10 years, 15 years, 5 years, whatever. They're still your brothers. They still serve.
The USS Bonhomme Richard is an amphibious assault ship capable of deploying and landing helicopters and smaller boats. San Diego is the vessel's home port, and it was undergoing routine maintenance at the time of the fire. The cause of the fire is not known. Dan Scheneman, NBC News.
And we do have a live look at that right now at the vessel as they try to put those flames out. One fire official tells us that that fire could go on for days as there is no way to attack it directly there. The Navy and the county will work together on health concerns from the smoke in the area, because you can see there still billowing up into the air. Another San Diego fire, this one at the San Gabriel Mission. An early morning fire yesterday quickly evolved into a multi-agency response requiring around 50 firefighters. The 250-year-old San Diego Mission dates back to the late 1700s. Fire investigators are still working to determine just what caused that damaging blaze. Renovation work was going on inside. And now we'll check our forecast today. I hear some records may have been broken with this hot Sunday. Taylor Martinez has your latest forecast.
That's right, Olivia. Just as you said, we did break some records today. Let's take a look. We hit 121 just a couple hours ago. That record high was 120 back in 1958. We last saw that temperature in 185. We last saw that temperature before that in 1958. Those lows were even far out from average. But tomorrow we will see a bit of a cool down. A little bit of relief, not too much of a cool down. 114 still, some very light winds. Sunrise is at 5:46 tomorrow. If you want to get out and do something, get out there early. Looking at our next 3 days, brought to you by Comfort Air. 114 tomorrow with a low of 80. Tuesday, 109 with a low of 76. And Wednesday, 108 with a low of 78. When will we start to see more relief? I'll tell you in the full forecast coming up.
All right, thank you, Taylor. With those record-setting temperatures in the Coachella Valley this weekend, cooling centers were also seeing some visitors trying to beat the heat. There are 4 cooling centers in the Coachella Valley: Martha's Village and Kitchen, Coachella Valley Rescue Mission, Coachella Senior Center, and Well in the Desert, all for cooling locations. You can visit the link on our website and right there on your screen if you'd like to learn more.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Coronavirus case numbers continue to set records here in the U.S. Florida today reported over 15,000 cases, a single-day record for that state. And the U.S. saw over 66,000 cases on Friday, over 60,000 for the past 3 days. We'll have more on those numbers in a bit, but first we'll start closer to home. Taking a look at our local COVID-19 numbers, the county has stopped reporting these numbers on weekends, so these are from Friday. Riverside County saw new daily case records 3 days in a row last week, week with over 1,400 new cases reported on Friday. There are over 24,500 cases in Riverside County, 7,000 of those here in the Coachella Valley, 537 deaths in the county, 148 of those in our valley. Indio has the most cases in the valley with 1,879. They also have the most deaths at 42. Riverside County has reached 100% ICU bed utilization. That's according to the Department of Public Health. The hospitals are nearly 75% full. Earlier in the week, county officials said hospitals are operating under surge plans, though they aren't completely full yet. Coronavirus testing continues at Dodger Stadium today. It's LA's largest testing site with the ability to test over 5,000 people a day. But the testing hasn't slowed down for the Dodgers' preparation for the upcoming MLB season. They played an intra-squad scrimmage ahead of the shortened schedule. Multiple White House health officials say masks will help the U.S. out of the coronavirus pandemic. Admiral Brett Giroux, the Assistant Secretary for Health at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, says there is no downside to wearing a mask. He responded to a previous claim by President Donald Trump that wearing a mask is a, quote, double-edged sword.
There's no downside to wearing a mask. I'm a pediatric ICU physician. I wore a mask 10 hours a day for many, many years. So we don't believe there's a downside to it. Now, there are very selective people who feel uncomfortable with it. But again, you don't have to wear it 24/7. It's really when you're not around within your home, when you're out in a public space and you can't physically distance.
U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams also spoke about masks today, saying they can help turn this pandemic around.
If we can get a critical mass of people wearing face coverings, practicing at least 6 feet of social distancing, doing the things that we know are effective. And it's important for the American people to understand when we're talking about the fall, we have the ability to turn this around.
Dr. Adams' statement comes as the U.S. records more than 3.4 million COVID-19 cases in the country. More people hit the road over the 4th of July weekend than over Memorial Day, despite warnings from health experts. New analysis of cell phone data from Cubic, a private company that the CDC uses to track general movement in the U.S., shows this. Out of 10 large cities in the country, nearly all of them saw an increase in visitors when compared to either Memorial Day weekend or the 2 weeks prior. Experts say mobility is one of the risk factors for transmission of COVID-19. The Secretary of Education is echoing President Trump's push to reopen schools. The president and the White House recently urged the CDC to revise its school opening guidelines, but the agency's director said last week that they will not be loosened. The Education Secretary says the guidelines are meant to be flexible and there's nothing to indicate children would be in danger.
The CDC guidelines are just that, meant to be flexible and meant to be applied as appropriate for the situation. There is nothing in the data that would suggest that kids being back in school is dangerous to them. Kids need to be in school. They need to be learning. They need to be moving ahead, and we cannot be paralyzed and not allow that or not be intent on that happening.
The CDC guidelines for schools to reopen include keeping desks 6 feet apart and the use of cloth face coverings. The CDC also suggests the closing of communal areas like dining rooms and playgrounds and the installation of physical barriers like sneeze guards where necessary. As discussion over schools restarting continues at the national level, here in the Coachella Valley, school districts are preparing for the new year as well. Distance learning seems to be the option for most schools, but the main question everyone is facing is how long will it last? Our Nico Payne has more on that. Good evening, Nico.
As many schools prepare for the new school year in August, there are still many questions surrounding remote learning and how it will look moving forward. After many meetings and much planning, school districts in the Coachella Valley have decided to begin the year with online classes.
Our Board of Education approved a proposal for all students to begin in a distance learning platform with a transition to a hybrid in-class and distance learning program once conditions allow.
Palm Springs Unified School District also making it clear that once the hybrid model starts, it will be optional.
The distance learning option will remain an option for the entire school year. The phase-in approach to this program would likely mean that we would begin with bringing back some groups of students first.
Palm Springs Unified has also released sample schedules on their website of what online distance learning and hybrid learning will look like, though they have not been finalized. Desert Sands Unified School District will be following suit, beginning with online learning and moving to a hybrid model at a date still to be determined. Their board meetings have been heavily centered on strict safety measures, including wearing face coverings and social distancing. And the Coachella Valley Unified School District will be holding a public forum via Zoom on July 14th to discuss their options for reopening schools. Palm Springs Unified officials acknowledged that distance learning in the spring was tough, but assured that changes will be made and programs will be more involved.
We will have all of our students engaged with their teachers in live instruction daily, along with independent lessons, assignments, and projects aligned to district guidelines.
And for more info and all the latest information for each school district, you can head to our website, NBCPalmSprings.com. Reporting in studio, I'm Nico Payne.
All right, thank you for that report, Nico. As calls continue across the country for kids to head back to school, some Minnesota residents want students back in the classroom. The group of Reopen Minnesota Schools held a rally at the state capitol yesterday. There's no word yet on a plan for students in Minnesota, but Governor Tim Walz is expected to announce guidance on Wednesday. Coming up after the break, Florida sets a new record for daily cases in any state. We'll tell you how many coming up next. Plus, President Trump wears a mask for the first time in public. We'll have reactions after the break. And there's a new movie out this week, and it's called Palm Springs. Our Manny the Movie Guy sat down with the cast to talk about the movie named after our flagship city.
Ahead for us, how hot weather affects the spread of COVID as global cases surge, and doctors weighing in on if they'd send their kids back to school. Plus, COVID's impact on the future of malls and movie theaters when we see you on Nightly News.
The search for missing Glee actress Naya Rivera continues today. Several dive teams and cadaver dogs continued efforts to find her 4 days after she presumably drowned during a boating trip with her 4-year-old son. Rivera rented a boat at a Ventura County lake about an hour north of Los Angeles. Officials say the boating vendor discovered the vessel on the lake. Her son was asleep on board wearing a life jacket. Authorities say another life vest and Rivera's purse and ID were on board as well. Ventura County Sheriff's Office investigators later announced that Rivera likely drowned. A grim new milestone has just been reached in the fight against COVID-19. Florida has now posted the highest single day of coronavirus cases by any state, 15,299. And in places like Miami, the virus is now out of control. Whitney Wild has more.
This is an American tragedy.
A number that not even New York saw during the height of the pandemic in its state. 15,299. That's the number of new coronavirus cases the Florida Department of Health reported Sunday, making it the highest number of cases recorded by any single state. With more than 7,500 COVID patients hospitalized, medical systems are struggling to keep up and running out of ICU beds.
We definitely had a sharp increase in the number of people going to the hospital. Number of people are in ICU and the number of people on our ventilators.
Florida has been posting and then breaking record high case numbers for the past several weeks, prompting several beaches to close and some areas to roll back their phased reopening. Congresswoman Donna Shalala says the governor needs to take direct action.
It's out of control across the state because our governor won't even tell everybody to wear masks.
In Washington, I'm Whitney Wild.
President Trump wore a mask in public for the first time yesterday since the coronavirus pandemic hit the United States. The president wore the face covering as he visited service members at the Walter Reed Military Hospital. It follows months of refusing to wear a mask in public, even while visiting facilities that had policies requiring face coverings. President Trump says that while he wore a mask this time, it won't happen every time he goes out in public.
I think when you're in a hospital, especially in that particular setting where you're talking to a lot of soldiers and people that in some cases just got off the operating tables, I think it's a great thing to wear a mask. I've never been against masks, but I do believe they have a time and a place.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had this to say about the president wearing a mask in public for the first time, calling it an admission of sorts.
Now he's crossed a bridge. That's an admission that if you're going to see our soldiers, you have to wear a mask. If you're going to be with our children, you have to wear a mask. If we want to stop the spread of the coronavirus, you have to wear a mask. So hopefully, by his example, he will change his attitude, which will be helpful in stopping the spread of the coronavirus.
And the president's decision did come after months of declining to wear one publicly. We have plenty more to come after the break, but first we'll check in with Taylor Martinez.
Yeah, taking a look at our Walter Clark Highway 111 cam. Pretty quiet day out there, as I assume most people are staying indoors because of this record-breaking heat. We'll talk about that in the next 7 days coming up. Mila Martinez in for Mike Everett today. He'll be back very soon, I promise. We're taking a live look at our Agua Caliente Casino Cam and Rancho Mirage. Some light cloud coverage that we'll talk about in a moment. This is a live look from Palm Springs now. A little bit of breeze, we'll also talk about that. But getting right to the numbers, we broke records in Palm Springs today. We saw a high of 121 out there, and we just hit that just a couple hours ago. The previous high record was 120 back in 1985, and we saw that again in 1958. That was the first time we saw it. Even those lows were pretty far off from average. Right now in Palm Springs, we're down to 118. Thank God it went down a little bit, right? Some very light winds coming through, but nothing to really make that heat go away. Humidity of 9%, very dry day out there. Those winds, they're going to pick up throughout the night, bringing gusts of about 30 miles per hour along the freeway there right now across the southwest. Lake Havasu, 118. They were also just 121 moments ago. Las Vegas, 115, a nice 73 in Santa Barbara. Those mid to low 80s along the coast, bringing it a little closer to home. 111 and 29 Palms, 103 in Joshua Tree, 82 in Big Bear. Another perfect day to lay by the lake there. Those triple digits sticking around along the Banning Pass, 80 in Mount San Jacinto, 118 in Palm Desert and Palm Springs, 114 in Thousand Palms. As we talked about, there was some light cloud coverage coming right over us. That'll continue to move over us. Stick around for a little bit, but nothing too crazy. As for our radar, there is some moisture in the air, nothing that will affect us, and that's the trend through much of Southern California. Across the Southwest, though, we are seeing dangerous heat, and that is leading right to the advisories right here in the Coachella Valley. We are currently in an excessive heat warning for the Coachella Valley and much of the deserts. That'll go out of play tomorrow night, moving a little more inland. They have a heat advisory right now as well. That'll go out of play tonight. Looking at tomorrow, a nice hot 87 at 6 a.m. tomorrow before we work our way up to 112 at 4 p.m. Those dew points staying in the high 40s, low 50s, a little bit of moisture, not too much out there though. Looking forward to tomorrow, highs 110 in 29 Palms, 105 in Joshua Tree, 80 in Big Bear, 114 in Thousand Palms, Palm Springs, 115 in Palm Desert, 97 out in Banning. Tuesday, sticking with the triple digits, guys. 106 in Thousand Palms, 101 in Joshua Tree, 79 in Big Bear. We are seeing some relief here in the Coachella Valley. 109 in Palm Springs and Thousand Palms, 111 in Indio. Looking at our next 7 days, brought to you by Comfort Air. 114 tomorrow with a low of 80. We're seeing some relief Tuesday, as I said, with 109, 108 Wednesday before we slowly start to heat up into our weekend. 110 Thursday and Friday, 111 Saturday, 112 on Sunday.
In tonight's Showbiz Report, a movie named after the city of Palm Springs is now streaming on Hulu, but is it worth a trip? Manny the Movie Guy has the answer.
Hello movie buffs, come with me to a wild and fun trip to Palm Springs.
It's gonna be a beautiful wedding.
This one has it all, a wedding movie, a romantic comedy with a sci-fi twist. Yet, Palm Springs is fresh and totally entertaining.
I'm Sarah.
Niles.
It's a rom-com with not just a heart, but brain as well. And the best part, it's about my city.
Yes, right.
It begins with a wedding where we meet Andy Samberg's Niles.
Yeah, Niles is interesting because when you first meet him, it seems like he is completely the master of his universe and in complete control.
The reason? He's in a time loop, stuck on November 9th, the day of the wedding. So he lives like there's no tomorrow until he meets Kristen Miliotti's Sarah.
It was such an incredible combination of like dark, weird, so funny, and like very moving.
The fantastic ensemble also has Camila Mendez as Sarah's sister, the bride, and J.K. Simmons providing the laughs as the mysterious Roy.
To the struggle.
How much you care about Niles and Sarah, you know, Andy and Kristen's characters was what really jumped out at me.
He's absolutely right. Imagine all the romantic comedy and time loop cliches, deconstruct the heck out of them, and you'll get Palm Springs. And yes, this one was not shot in Palm Springs. It was filmed in Santa Clarita and Palmdale and one day up in Joshua Tree. Why?
Budgetary restrictions and the California tax rebate. My biggest regrets about the movie is that we weren't able to spend the entire time in Palm Springs because I love Palm Springs and I love
The shooting location should not take away from the brilliance of the film. It's funny, sad, and will make you think.
May I cut in? It's the first dance.
Great characters, confident direction by Max Barbacao, and memorable performances. Palm Springs is one of my favorite films this year.
This is crazy! If you have a chance to get stuck in a time loop, what era of your life would it be?
I mean, I would say this one.
I was gonna say that too.
We kind of are anyway, so I know what it would be like.
Oh, and I will just be interviewing you guys forever and ever and ever. Oh my God!
And for that, Palm Springs gets the perfect 4 out of 4. Stream it on Hulu. Kisses. I'm Manny the Movie Guy, having a great time in Palm Springs.
A Brazilian couple is going to great lengths to protect themselves against the threat of the coronavirus. They made full-on astronaut suits they wear even when taking a stroll out on the beach. Look at those there. The creative couple put smiles on the faces of people as they walked in Rio de Janeiro. I think as they should. A lot of protection going on there. Maybe we need some of those here in the studio. We can do the news in full astronaut gear. That would be great. All right, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you again at 6 o'clock.